The year was 476. The last Western Roman emperor was removed from power. Historians often remember this moment as the end of the Western Roman Empire. But empires rarely fall in a single day. Rome did not simply disappear. Overnight it weakened. Slowly, political struggles. Inside the empire, economic pressure, attacks, and pressure along the borders, and the difficulty of controlling such a vast territory all damaged the Roman system over time. An empire that once stretched from Europe to North Africa and from the Middle East to Britain gradually lost the strength that had held it together. But this raises an important question. What if Rome had never reached that final point? What if the empire had managed to reform itself instead of breaking apart? When Rome fell, it was not only a government that disappeared. Roman law, Roman roads, Roman cities, and the political order that connected much of Europe began to break apart. So if that order had survived, what would the world look like today after the fall of Rome? Power in Western Europe was divided among smaller kingdoms. Cities became weaker. Trade routes lost much of their old strength. But if Rome had survived, the map of Europe could have looked completely different. Modern France, Germany, Spain, Italy, the Balkans, and parts of Britain might have remained inside one large Roman system instead of hundreds of small kingdoms. Europe could have been shaped by one powerful Roman bloc. That might have reduced some wars. It might have made trade stronger. It might have standardized laws much earlier. And the Mediterranean could have remained under Roman control for a much longer time. But there was another side to this. Rome was not only roads, laws, baths, and marble cities. Rome also meant taxes, army obedience, and strict central authority. So if Rome had survived, the world might have been more organized, but not necessarily more free. European nations would also have formed in a very different way. France, Germany, Spain, and England might not exist today in the form we know. Local peoples could have been absorbed more deeply into the Roman system. Languages might have changed too. Latin could have remained the main language of government, education, and public life for much longer. Perhaps today, the world's strongest international language would not be English, but a modern form of Latin religion could have taken another path as well. After Rome accepted Christianity, the church gained great influence inside the empire. But if a strong Roman state had continued, the papacy might not have become such an independent political power. The church could have remained more closely controlled by the empire. In that world, the Reformation and the religious conflicts that shaped Europe might have happened in a completely different way. The rise of the Islamic world could also have unfolded differently. In the 7th century, Islamic caliphates expanded rapidly. But if a united and powerful Rome had still existed, the balance of power in the Middle East and North Africa might have changed. Rome may have held some regions for longer, or the struggle for control of the Mediterranean could have become even larger and more prolonged. Science and technology might also have developed in another direction. Rome was strong in engineering. Roads, aqueducts, bridges, ports, and city planning were all central to the Roman world. If that system had not collapsed, some knowledge may have been preserved more effectively. Urban life might have remained stronger. Education and technical administration could have continued at a higher level. Europe may have advanced earlier in some fields, but powerful empires do not always speed up innovation. Sometimes they control it. If Rome had lasted much longer, technology might have moved forward, but freedom of thought could have remained. inside a stricter imperial framework. The discovery of America and the later colonial history of the world could also have changed. Spain and Portugal might never have become independent maritime empires. Ocean exploration might have happened later, or it might have been controlled by one large Roman-style central state. That could have changed the history of America, Africa, and Asia in ways that are hard to imagine. But if Rome had never fallen, that would not automatically mean a better world. Rome was powerful, but it was also harsh. It crushed rebellions. Taxes could be heavy. Slavery was a major part of the economy. And social inequality was deep. If Rome had survived, some of these problems might have lasted much longer. The world could have been more stable, but also more strictly controlled. And perhaps the most interesting possibility is this: if Rome had never fallen, the idea we now call the Western world might look completely different. Institutions like the European Union might never have been necessary because Europe may have already been united inside one empire. People might have seen themselves first, not as French, German, Spanish, or English, but as Roman citizens. But the question remains, would that world have been better, or would it simply have been a world living under the shadow of a longer-lasting empire? If Rome had not fallen, history might have been more organized, but order does not always mean freedom. If Rome had survived, the world would not only have been different, it would have been more united, more controlled, and far more Roman.